Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I hope you're all having a good Monday. I'm Julian Bonici. Joining me today is Jonathan Celia. We've got an action-packed episode for you once again. Our first story is all about Eurovision and how Destiny was barred from a Eurovision opening because of a COVID-19 case found in her hotel. Our second story is all about Minister Carmelo Abela and how he's under police investigation for his alleged role in an HSBC heist. Our third story, a really shocking story coming out of Malta, a carer charged with sexually abusing a Mosta elderly care home resident. Our fourth story is all about the abortion topic in Malta and how the PN leader has proposed free contraception and the morning after pill to reduce demand for the medical procedure. And our last story is all about Adrian Hillman and his extradition process to Malta. We've got a really special guest for you today. At the end of the episode, we'll be conducting an interview with Francesca Vella, the Vice President of the Allied Rainbow Communities, to mark International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia and Biphobia. And also, just before we get started, a nice reminder to stay updated with the latest news from what's going on in Malta by signing up for Lovin Daily. That's our newsletter. It's super easy to sign up for. All you have to do is go onto our website and click a few things. But onto our first story, it's all about Destiny, right, John?
Oh, another bit of an upset from Malta's beloved starlet after she was told that she could not attend a nice opening for the Eurovision Song Contest. So this is the turquoise carpet. This is quite a extravagant and exciting event for Eurovision singers, for their teams, get together, network a little bit and get to know each other. But she will not be able to attend after someone tested positive for COVID-19 in her hotel. So Destiny, took to social media yesterday. She shared the look she would have worn at the event alongside a photo of herself, literally crying. But she said, listen guys, I am safe, I'm following protocols, this is my look, but unfortunately I will not be attending the event. Now, even the official Eurovision Instagram account commented saying you will be missed at the event. So this is actually really another sad upset for the singer. Let's be clear, last year she was supposed to go up for Eurovision. Of course, the pandemic hit, so there was all of that upset last year. This year hasn't been the smoothest ride. However, she's still #1 favorite as far as the bookmakers are concerned to come out on top on the semi-final tomorrow.
Yeah, really just, upsetting news for this. And I can really understand, you're sort of getting excited, gearing up for something you've been waiting for 2 years now. And yeah, COVID hits again. I really do feel bad for her. But, I mean, it was just an opening, a turquoise carpet event. So at least we know that she'll be rocking the stage on Tuesday. And with a voice like that, I'm no doubt she's going to kick ass. I'm already getting super hyped for it already. I think we're going to win. So let us know what you think in the comments below. In other news about COVID, the COVID vaccine has opened up to everyone over 16 in Malta. So go online on the vaccine.gov.mt and sign up for your vaccine. Things are going really positively at the moment. We've got just 2 new cases yesterday, 21 recoveries, putting down the number of active cases to just 158. So really positive stuff. Get vaccinated and, most importantly, support Destiny.
You just signed up to get vaccinated.
Yes, I did. I made sure this morning. I went on. I couldn't find my ID, but I found it and I still managed to get vaccinated. So make sure you do it as well. On to our next story, a bit more serious. It's about OPM Minister Carmelo Abela officially being under criminal investigation for his alleged role in a 2010 attempted heist on HSBC. So several reports yesterday revealed how on 5th May, police contacted Judge Giovanni Gristi, asking him if they can reopen the case into the HSBC heist. Carmelo Abela was an HSBC officer at the time of the heist and is alleged to have helped the robbers gain access to sensitive areas of the bank by providing them with key cards that were only available to employees. Judge Giovanni Gristi is overseeing the case against Vince Muscat and Darren De Bona for their involvement in the heist. For those of you who I'm sure you all know by now, Vince Muscat is the man who has pleaded guilty for his involvement in the murder of Daphne Caruana Galizia, gotten a pardon for the murder of Carmen Kirkhope, and has actually requested a pardon on this case and others. What the police are asking for is Abella's testimony that was given to the judge behind closed doors. So we'll actually see how that develops a little bit in the coming days. There was a little bit of a story we're hoping coming out from this morning because Carmelo Abella's libel suit against Jason Azzopardi was going to kick off, but much like the Maltese court system, that case has been deferred to another sitting. Not to drag this on long, but I think one clear comment really has to be made. Now, I understand Carmelo Abella is technically still innocent until proven guilty, but Prime Minister Robert Abella now certainly has to take action and at the very least suspend Carmelo Abella from cabinet. The Prime Minister has to realize that his predecessor Joseph Muscat, effectively was forced to resign because he defended people like Keith Kember and Conrad Mitzi for so long. Let's hope this Prime Minister doesn't make the same mistake.
You know, talking about politicking, opposition leader Bernard Gregg has actually jumped onto this as he should, and he actually made quite a bit of a quip yesterday in his weekly address on Sunday. So obviously, Abella has said that he had forgotten that he had testified about this case back in the day, and Bernard Gregg kind of jumped on that and he said, quote, "Listen, I forgot what I ate yesterday and the day before that, but I still remember testifying in a magisterial inquiry back in 2004 after I ran over a girl." So, you know, it's a very strong point made. I mean, you might forget certain things, but testifying when people are alleging that you might be involved in a bank heist, I don't think you'd forget that. So, as you said, we'll definitely be seeing some developments in this case, so stay tuned for more on that. Moving on to a bit of a shocking story from Mosta, my hometown. A 53-year-old carer has been charged with sexually abusing a 69-year-old elderly woman, a resident at this care home. The name of the home has not been released, and the exact nature of the abuse hasn't been released either. However, the case was noticed by other carers when blood was seen on the sheets of the resident. And then when they asked her about what had happened, she opened up about the abuse that she had faced. The nurse, the carer, is a Serbian national. His name is Goran Pentelic. He's been working in Malta for the last 3 years, and he's now been charged with both sexual abuse as well as bodily harm. He's pled not guilty to this. However, in the next few days, we will definitely be seeing more details, especially when it comes to what the exact nature of the crime was. But yeah, you know, shocking to see that this is happening in Malta, especially so close to where I live. I mean, there's quite a popular and large residential home in Mosta. The name hasn't been released, but I can imagine it's probably from there. So really, really shocking stuff coming out.
Yeah, no, so shocking. I mean, to hear of a sexually abusive case like that, you know, it really shocks you to the core. I think what it does show is, you know, how these kind of abuses have sort of infiltrated positions that we trust, right? A carer, a police officer, a priest. You know, we've really had some horrific cases over the last few months, and authorities really need to do action, like strong action, whether it's through the form of independent inquiry or whatever, to weed out all these abuses lying within our nation's institutions. On to our next story, Malta's most controversial topic at the moment, abortion. The PN leader, Bernard Gregg, yesterday in an interview sort of said how he wants to introduce contraception and the morning after pill to be readily available and free to everyone over 16. He said he's doing this to reduce the demand for abortion after independent MP Marlene Farrugia presented a private member's bill calling for the decriminalization of abortion in Malta. What the PN leader has already said is that the PN would not be in favor of the bill, saying he doesn't want to, you know, not provide a penalty for committing a criminal act like abortion. Still, he did not want to say what that penalty will be, except not going to prison. So I think we just need him to be a little bit more clear on that. On the proposal itself, well, he's technically not wrong, right? Contraception and the morning after pill should be readily available and free to everyone over 16. But that does not mean abortion should not be decriminalized or legalized for that matter. Actually, what we should be doing is making sure everybody has all the options available to make sure abortion is a complete last resort. You know, these things should be free, they should be readily available for everyone. And I think that's the way we should start looking at this debate a bit more. actually quite divided on it, right, John? You did a Vox Pop last week. How did that go?
That's exactly right. We hit the streets of Valletta last week to speak to the people in the street to see how they really felt about abortion. And I can tell you, people are very, very much still divided. We spoke to entire families, mother, fathers, daughters, and sons who, even within themselves, had totally differing opinions. You know, there were mothers who were totally against it, fathers who said depends on the circumstances, elder sisters saying totally should be a right, and younger sisters saying, you know, maybe we should slow down on it. Even foreigners, you know, they had a different opinion. It did tend to be that foreigners felt like abortion should be allowed in Malta. And interesting enough, it seemed that older men kind of just stepped away from it. They said, listen, it's not even our place to talk about this. It really is the place of the women to decide about this. So definitely check out the Vox Pop. It's on Lovin Malta's Facebook page as well as website. But clearly with so many different opinions on this, it shows we really do need to have a discussion on it. So it's more pertinent than ever that everyone contributes to this so we can figure out what we're going to do on this, which might be the very last taboo in Malta, abortion. So we'll definitely have to see how this develops. Moving on to the final story of the day, the process to extradite Adrian Hillman, who is the former Allied Newspaper's managing director, wanted in relation to charges relating to money laundering and corruption, may finally be, you know, getting somewhere. Maltese authorities have been trying to get Hillman to Malta to speak to him about these very, very big questions related to some major scandals that have rocked the island. He's been in the UK though for at least a year. He's reading for a PhD over there. However, it does seem that he might be able to be brought to Malta, brought back to Malta. Sorry about that. After being charged or facing some charges in a British court. So this would be a new system, a new extradition system that happened after the UK has left the European Union following Brexit. But at least it's a start. Obviously, Hillman is one of the few people that has yet to step into a Maltese court. He's been in the UK. So to see that the process may finally be getting somewhere and he might finally be coming back to Malta to see some charges is something that is very positive.
Yes, the other people who were charged in relation to the case, it was at the end of March, right? So it's sort of been almost 2 months. And I think what's interesting, you touched on it as well, right? That it's going to be the first extradition court case Malta has had to use in the UK since Brexit, which throughout all the other extradition procedures we're using before. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that develops. I'm sure the people really want to hear what Hillman has to say. Those of you who don't know, at least what we've heard in court till now is that he could have profited up to 1 million euros from Progress Press's purchase of printing equipment from Keach Cambria. So let's see how it develops. I'm sure the case is going to be really interesting. It's a first for Maltese law as well, so stay tuned. Just before we go to a short video, just a reminder that after the video we've got a really special guest today, Francesca Vella, the Vice President of ARC, to mark International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. It's going to be a really good interview. Stay tuned after this short video.
In Malta, we don't say.
So here we are back in the offices with Francesca Vella, the Vice President from Allied Rainbows Community. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me.
So obviously we wanted to bring you in because today is the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, a very, very important day. And I was seeing some things, you know, it seems that Malta is ranked first once again on the ILGA Europe rankings for LGBT rights around the world, around Europe.
Index, no?
So there's some good signs, So before we get into the details, I just wanted to see what is the state of gay rights in Malta right now in 2021?
Okay, so, you know, as we all know that we've come a long way, that we can't deny, and all the developments in the legal frameworks are praiseworthy. I mean, when you consider that this conservative society of ours has, not even 4 years ago now, but 4 years ago, both sides of the House practically almost unanimously voted in favor of gay marriage, you know, so that is, you know, you cannot say that we haven't made very, very positive developments for all those people who had been yearning to have the same equal rights as their heterosexual counterparts. But of course, we always say, it's inevitable that the legal framework, between the legal framework and what people actually feel and go through and experience on a daily basis, there's still, you know, a big divide, so to speak. We've seen many developments also in terms of rights for transgender people, non-binary people, the introduction of the possibility to have an X mark on your passport if you'd like to not disclose. So yes, we've really, it's something, you know, I think we can say we're proud to have come along such a long way. What we need to be addressing now is the mentality, if you like, that, you know, just because we've come such a long way, people's mentalities, how they actually feel, the ingrained, the internalized maybe homophobia and transphobia in each and every one of us does not go away as quickly as a law is possibly, luckily, as we've been introduced, you know. So what we try to do at ARC is precisely this. We try to bridge that divide between the fact that we acknowledge that laws have been introduced. Maybe it's something that we can never take for granted as well. We should never, we've seen what happened even last week. In the European Council, Poland and Hungary actually blocked, you know, the mention of gender equality in an EU-wide resolution, you know. So we cannot take anything for granted. Rights can never be taken for granted.
No, you're exactly right. So Malta has made progress when it comes to the legal frameworks and ramifications. That's very, very fair. But, you know, society does need a few years to catch up. So what are some of the challenges that the community is facing in Malta right now? I mean, so we saw what happened when it came to Hungary on the international context, but on a local context, what are some of the local challenges that we're seeing in Malta?
I think what we need to be looking at are the fact that when we say, okay, so the LGBTIQ++ community, it's such a multifaceted community, if you like. The needs of every individual member forming part of that community are so different. I think transgender people are generally possibly more prone to poverty in Malta still. You often have cases of people who find it difficult to find a job if they are also possibly unskilled and uneducated. We have situations also of what's being referred to as Femme Phobia. So stereotypes are also reinforced within the LGBT community. Wow. So situations where you have, you're not gay enough, or you're not butch enough, or if you're a lesbian, then why should you be carrying a handbag, or wearing a dress?
How widespread is that?
It's a little bit difficult to quantify it, but we do. I think, you know, it's the underlying tones and messages are often there. We also have a situation of maybe underrepresentation of queer women in Malta. I think there isn't enough visibility yet.
So how do you address these community issues? Is it education? Do you do a campaign?
Well, yes, campaigns certainly help. Any form of educational campaigns, information campaigns will help. I always insist, and I really believe that visibility comes also in the form of people being ready to talk about their own experiences. So if you're transgender, then, you know, it shouldn't simply be a label, but people need to get to know you beyond your gender identity. And so once people start getting to know you and they start saying, oh, okay, he's transgender, she's transgender, but he has a family, he has grandchildren, I don't know. You know, there's so much more to people than their simple gender identity. And when we are more open with each other about our lives and how maybe experiences have left a negative or positive impact on ourselves, then I think we will start to slowly address homophobia and transphobia, which again, I say, is possibly even ingrained in us without us even knowing sometimes, you know. I was listening to a podcast about, and this transgender guy actually said, you know, have you ever asked yourself, do I want to be transgender? Does anyone want to be transgender? And he said, I am transgender myself, and I deepens, on the one hand, yes, I am proud to have come this you know, a long way, and to have accepted myself, my family having accepted, but deep down, on the other hand, there is a little bit of me that's still transphobic.
Wow. I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, it's a process for everyone, right, including the individual. So is there a particular, I don't know, community or maybe an institution? I mean, it seems like 10 years ago, when you think of the divorce debate, there were clear factions, you know, and there were some strong words. In 2021, are there any maybe religious communities or any type of communities or institutions that, you know, are really antagonizing the community, or has things calmed down a bit?
I feel that things have changed a lot, so people are much more accepting, also because it's so much, you know, it's been a little bit normalized, if you like, and less laughable, and so, although, again, you need to look at the different aspects of life, what happens in the playground, and what happens when LGBT people go to the doctor and maybe address issues that their doctor might not be comfortable with. But in terms of factions, possibly, unfortunately, I feel that the church still rears its head every so often, you know, with the Pope on the one hand talking about accepting civil unions, and then you hear something else, and then a priest writes something in a local newspaper. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, yes, I still feel that there is a bit of a conservative, maybe not so much a movement, but element, yeah. And maybe individuals that feel very strongly about you know, a bit of a right-wing element. In
fact, last week we had an article about that Moster priest, Father David Muscat, who said some wild, crazy things. I think he even said something that, you know, for him, the day when a gay couple would be married within a church would be the end of the world for him. Yes. It's kind of nuts. Obviously, we wrote it because it's shocking to have people saying these things. But when you read these things in 2021 in Malta, obviously this guy doesn't represent the church. No. I very highly doubt he does, but still an element there.
Yes. No matter, okay, fair enough, he might not represent the church, but unfortunately he's making his voice loudly heard, and in some way or other he will definitely have an influence on you know, the way people look at things. So again, it is definitely a form of homophobia, and it's unfortunate, but what do you do?
Yeah, but at least nowadays, visibility, even in politics, this seems to be on the rise. Obviously, we have Pete Buttigieg in America, you know, a man that's of Maltese descent, openly gay, at such a high-ranking position in the American government. You've got, locally, you have Cyrus Enjar, Maltese MEP. You even had 2 trans candidates join the PN. Mm-hmm. So it does seem that there seems to be movement as far as it comes to being openly gay in the political sphere, something that I think 5 or 10 years ago might have been really hard to get your head around.
Yes, that's the thing. I think we've made really, really fast development in recent years. When you consider that, I think you could say there was a bit of a shift. No, not just in Malta, but there was a shift maybe in the 90s after the HIV crisis, you could say, politically and culturally and socially. But education should have started back then. It started a little bit too late, you know. In Malta, yes, I really believe that the laws, the legal framework has helped in recent years. But the shift has happened very, very fast in the last 10 years.
For some people.
Maybe too fast, maybe we weren't ready for it, but when is the time to do it? I mean, again, if you don't start, then it could mean, you know, for some people on a personal level, it could mean so many things. They could be going through such horrible experiences, and it, you know, it's something that affects people's lives directly. So,
is there something that ARC would like to see? Maybe increased punishments, a new legal framework, education drive, or anything to address this element of homophobia that does remain in Maltese society?
I think it's now about advocacy, it's about education, it's about acknowledging that a blanket law should not then cover up the maybe smaller issues that still exist in people's lives. But I think it's now really about challenging stereotypes much more, possibly, you know, even by introducing changes in the curriculum, I would say. Why not? Should we be addressing, not only from an LGBTI perspective, but shouldn't we be talking, changing the narrative for boys and girls when they're in school? You know, should boys should boys be studying mathematics, science, and all that, technology, while girls we're still at a stage where women are underrepresented in many aspects of society. And this doesn't necessarily fall under LGBT issues, but what I'm saying is that we should be challenging stereotypes, gender stereotypes, much more. Primarily in education, I would say.
I wanted to talk a bit about a bit of a local issue that happened last week, estrogen. So obviously last week we had a few groups and individuals talking about the lack of estrogen in Malta, something that's very, very important to people, to trans people going through a very important change in their life. What's the situation right now when it comes to estrogen?
Although I'm not quite sure what the situation is like, because we do seem to have had a situation where it was available in pharmacies, but not, or rather as the pharmacy of your choice scheme or something like that. But stock levels were low. Now, the way we see it, I think if something like estrogen, which is so important for transgender women, but not only, also for cisgender, for women, you know, women who might need it if they're going through menopause or whatever, then it needs to be supplied, you know, it needs to be readily available. But I'm really not sure what the situation is like. It has been available in certain pharmacies by the looks of it.
And what about HIV medication? I know, like, it seems like every few months there seems to be a lack, and obviously then it will happen very suddenly. You leave some people high and dry, and there always seems to be a scramble. Is there a long-term plan for this? You know, are we ascertained the fact that we have a stock of this when we need it?
Again, I'm not entirely sure. I know that COVID has made, you know, things a little bit worse in terms of supply of certain medication. But again, it's not, the issues aren't only with HIV and estrogen, HRT medication, but I would imagine that there's also issues with other types of medication. Again, if it is needed, then the government needs to ensure continuity of supply, and hopefully there is some form of strategy in place. We don't really get into that kind of thing at ARC, but yes, we will always want to ensure that whoever needs this medication has it readily available.
Finally, if people want to reach out to you, maybe they have some questions or they want to report some issues or maybe they just want to find out more, where should people go? Is there a website? Where would you direct them?
Okay, so ARC, which stands for Allied Rainbow Communities, has a Facebook page and a website. The website is gaymalta.com. Our Facebook page is also other social media platforms. We obviously provide a space for anyone who wants to learn more about LGBT issues, but we also try to work with all our allies. At the end of the day, we don't live in an isolated world, and we do encourage people to look out for all our events, especially Europride in 2023, which
awesome.
Malta will be hosting. And anyone who would like to become a member, please do get in touch. We're here. There's a whole committee. I form part of a committee. So yes, Allied Rainbow Communities on Facebook.
Francesca, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. From myself and the whole Lovin Malta team, have a day full of lovin'.